Okay, we're going to have a look at using Google Webdesigner. It's a very simple HTML5 animation program, mainly aimed at making animated interactive adverts. It can be downloaded from google.com/webdesigner. It's still in beta. It has information about all its different functions, and right at the top it's a button to download. You can have it on both Mac and Windows. So download it and install. Okay, we're just going to have a basic overview of Google Web Designer and then move on to making a very simple animated advert. Now if we go to the file menu and we go new, now up at the top you have three different options for creating ads, and again it's a Google product and it's leading you into making a ad for Google. And then down at the bottom we have blank files, which means if you're doing any other sort of animation with it. Now we'll just go for just the banner that we're going to create. Now you do have enough options in the environment. You can go for a double click studio, rich media, ad mob, and a generic. We'll just leave it on the double click. You can change the dimensions of your advert. We will just go for 300 by 600, but you can go to custom and put your own in. And I will come up here and say Solent ad. Okay, so we've named it, and then you make sure where you saved it. Now at the bottom you can have quick or advanced when it comes to the animation, and all that means is it has a more expanded timeline that you can just do a bit more on it if it's on advanced. Once all that's set up, I can just click OK. Now there's my advert, which appears up in there on the stage area here. We have a timeline down the bottom, which is broken up into the design view. You can look at the code and amend the code, which it has on there. Then it has a preview. Then it has a publish. Timelines down here. It's got playback head moving across. You have layers. You have play. Very similar to what you find in lots of other what you see is what you get programs to do animation. Up at the top we have a move tool, like selection tool, which sometimes it's a bit glitchy depending on whichever setup you have. Underneath that is 3D rotate tool, which you can rotate. Underneath that is 3D object, again if you're doing 3D work. Underneath that you can have a tag tool. It has a pen tool. Now inside the pen tool, that has lots of other shapes. So you can do ovals, rectangles, and also lines in there. You can do text and make text boxes. Then we have the fill tool underneath there. And if you keep your finger on it, you've got stroke tool, gradient tool. So it has a number of different options. Underneath there, we've got the stage rotate tool for 3D, where you can turn the whole stage in a 3D environment. Then you've got the hand tool to move around, and then finally we've got the zoom tool. Up at the top there's a very short menu bar. In the view menu you can have guides and outlines. You can have all those different things, snap tos on there, which you can change those things, edit normal stuff you have there, and then file, the usual stuff you would have in files menus. Right, down at the side we have the color. We have components, which you can add components to do different functions. There's lots of them, like gallery, swipes, iframe, YouTube, and video, which are all quite useful. Underneath that is the properties, and that's where you would name your properties with the right IDs you want, and you can change the sizes and just amend color your object. Underneath that is the events, and the events really work in conjunction with the components. So if you put something like a tap button on there, you would then make a selection and make it interactive from within here. And then it has the cascade and style sheets, which again, you can amend things and put styles on here and add that to your animation. Now, okay, first up, I'm going to make my stage red. So if I come down to my properties, I click where it has style, and then you've got any number of functions where you can change the color. So I'll just go for here and I'll click and make my stage red. All right, so I've made my stage red. Now the next thing I'll do is bring in a logo. I've got a logo here. I bring it and I just drag it on here, place it, and then I can move that and put it in position. Okay, now sometimes you might find it's a little bit glitchy and you are unable to get some handles to scale your object, which seems to be the case now. That may not be the case on some setups or some computers you have. Now, I've got my object here. Now, I'll make sure I've got the selection tool selected. In the properties, it's got element, and I'll just go SSU logo and type that in there. And then it's got the width and height. Now, if I lock it before I change this, and if I just sort of take it down, I can click the mouse and drag it out, or you can type it in, and I'll just take it down to about 250 or thereabouts. Once I've done that, I can move it, and we've got that. So that's our first element, all for him to give it an ID. Now, I want this to be coming from the top and appearing here, so I want it coming down. So I'm going to put in something, you'll see it in the timeline. So if I move this object up here like this and place it up the top, you can nudge it with the arrow keys. Always probably remember that the actual position you've got it on, and the points you've got it on wherever it is placing. You can see that here, right? And then I'm going to have it coming in. So the first thing I need to do is probably put in the timeline about, I'll have it about 1.5 seconds about here. I'll right mouse click and insert a keyframe. Now you'll see the highlighted keyframe is blue when it's highlighted, so you can do something. So I'll click on the first keyframe over here. Now what will need to happen with this, if I go to the image properties, I go to style within the image properties, and my first one, I'm going to make the opacity 0, so I can just type it in. Now when I move along to the end, I'm going to make sure the opacity is on 1. So I'll just go back again. Yeah, the first one is 0 and the second one is 1, so it's solid. Now I need to move this down. So in the last one, I'm still got this frame, it's blue, and I've got my little object up there, and I'll just move it down. I'll move it down with the down key and move it down to put it into the position, but you can use all the setups to make sure it's not jittering or moving around. Okay, so I've put it on there. Now if I play that, you will see it moves down into place. So it's as simple as that. If I press stop, now what I can do is preview, and that will open it up within a browser. And if I just redo that again, all's well's working on it appearing in the browser. Now I'm going to have some other objects sort of coming in. I want a word that's going to say courses across the top, and that's just going to appear. So I will now click on my text tool, and I'll just click here. I click here, you'll see it'll give it a div on its own layer, and over here it says to give it an ID, and I will just call this courses. Obviously name it anything you want, and within there I'm going to type in courses. Now once it's input in there, I will sort of double click inside or select it all. Now I can select a font from up here, or you can click on F+, and this will open up some Google fonts. So you can then decide which Google font you want to have on in the program, you come back, and then if I come here, it's available to me below here. Now I can go up to where it's got the tag and change span to H1. And then finally, I'll just make sure I've double clicked in there. I'm in there. Up at the top, I'll change this and I'll make it into white. So I'll make the color into white. And then once I've got that, I can then move it into location, wherever I want it to be. Now this one, I'm going to have it appearing. So it's going to come along, and once my logo's come down and appeared, it's going to appear again. So if I click just in the next sort of block frame after this, insert a keyframe, it puts another block in here. I can click on that and move it along like that. Now you can shorten it by going to the end and bringing it in, and that will just shorten how long it takes. Now my first one, I click on my keyframe on the first one of that block, and I'm going to have the opacity down to 0. So it's going to just appear right at the end. Yep, the opacity is at 1, so it will appear from nothing to solid. Now where it says linear, you can click on there and click on easing linear. And this is where you would change ease in, ease out. So if I put it on ease in, it will sort of come in and won't appear. But you can change them all. The other one was on linear if you want more smoother movement. Now if I press the play, it'll come along and then appear. And what I'll do finally is I'll get it to appear in the browser. Okay, so that's all working quite well. The next thing I will do is put on some more words to come on here. So first up, I'll just go and get my text tool. Again, I'll just click here. I'll type in design, want of a better word. Again, I'll sort of highlight that. I'll go for my same font. Again, I might want to put something like another H2 on there, and then make sure I change it and I make it white. So I've got it as another color. Now I need to give it an ID over here, and I'll just call this design. So make sure you are doing all that and it's coming along. Now once that's on there, I need to have it on the wherever I want it to be. So make sure you sort of get it into the sort of the right position. I'll just move it up here, and then I'm just going to copy that. So once I've got it, I'm going to go copy and paste, and you'll see it says design 1. This one I'm just going to call that maths. Then it's copied it directly on here, and I'll just move that down so it's underneath. You'd line it up all properly and everything in. If you're doing this for real, I'm just quickly going through it. And then again, I get the text tool, I double click inside, and I just put in the word maths. Okay. Now that's set up, and then I just need to copy this again, make sure I've got the selection tool, copy, paste. Again, maths 1 will appear, and I call this one stuff. Okay. Want of a better word. Call it stuff. Once I've called it stuff and spelt it right, I will then move this down so it's underneath here. You probably get properly lined up. Text tool, double click inside and type in stuff. So there's all our sort of courses. Now we want these appearing from the right and coming in here and going and stopping here. So we want them sort of tweening in. So I put the playback head, say, after the second block here for the courses to come in, and I want the design to come in first. So I'm making sure I'm on that layer. I right mouse click, I insert keyframe, it slides along here. This is a little bit too long, so I'll sort of drag it out and put it somewhere around here. Again, I can just drag it into however you want it to be. This denote this means there's just space with nothing happening. This will really appear, and so that's going to come in, it's going to ease out at the same time as that. So I'll put it around about here so it comes on. Now in the first frame it has where it should be, and the last frame is where it should, so it should end up here in the last frame. But the first frame 271, so I need to make sure I move this over, and it's 271 from the top. So if I move it along here and have it on 271, there we go, place that on there. Now if we play, put the play on, it'll sort of work a little bit back to front, but you'll see it comes on and stops there. Now once I've got that, I need to repeat the same thing. I'll probably do it halfway along this timeline, and I'll do it with my maths layer or image, and I click here, I insert a keyframe. Again, it gives me a very, very large keyframe when it comes down here, and also a long block. I've sort of put it halfway here. Now the last one is going to be here, and it's at 356, and if I click over here, I click on my maths, and it should be 356. That'll line that up, and then again I'll play it. Okay, I'll just stop that. Then finally I should be on my stuff layer. I'll just move my timeline a little bit along. I'm going to do it halfway here. I'm then going to insert a keyframe. Again, I'll shorten this down. I'll drag it along. Once I've done that, I will check where the stuff is right at the end, and that's on 440. So I come back to my first one, and then I move this right over here, and that should be on 440. Let's move that in as long as it's on 440. That's right. And then you can, change these and do easing or linear. They'll probably look a little bit better with linear, I think, coming in. If I now play that again, I'm playing it in just from that position, so it's starting all over again, and it does that, right? I'll just stop that, and I'll preview it and bring it in and see how that happens. Okay, so very, very basic sort of design, but it gives you an idea of how it works out, and everything's on there. Now, if I move my playback head right to the end, that's the last one. Now, I need to just pull this down a little bit so the timeline comes a bit further down. That's a little bit troublesome, so you've got that. Now, I'm going to create a little button. So I'm going to put a button down at the bottom here. So I go up and I get my text. And if I just click here at the bottom, and I'll just say find out more. Again, once I've done that, I can double click in there and select all, and then I can go up and select a font. So I'll go for the font I chose. You can take this up and make it a little bit bigger. I'll make it say 24 on there. Once I've got that, I can move this up a little bit. Make sure I give it an ID up here on the right, and I'm going to call this button, because that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a button. Now, I'm going to change the background color. So it's got style is switched off here. So I click on here, and I'm going to make it yellow. Now you'll see it's tight around the edges, so we need to have some padding on it. So go down to padding. First thing I'll do is unlock the chain. Now my top one, I'm going to make 5, and you can drag it along if you want. And then the bottom one, I'm going to make 5 as well. And then left and right, I'm going to make it 15 by 15. Click away. Okay, so I've got that set up. So once that's done, put it in the best location. Okay, so what I'm going to do on this object is just have it appearing right at the end. So when all those things have come on, I'm going to put on the here timeline and insert. I'll just take this down a bit because I just want it to come on pretty quickly, maybe almost instantaneously. And come along here, and then I click away from it. The first frame, I'm going to have 0 opacity, and then the last frame I'm going to have at 1, so that will appear. Okay, here it all is. I'll just reload this and see how it works. Yeah, logo comes on, courses appear, my names appear, and then finally the button appears. I need to have it into an interactive button. So what I've done with all that process, I need to go up to components, and then it has tap area, which I can drag out and put here. Again, you might have corners on it to adjust it, but if you're a bit glitchy and these things are not appearing, you can go to the properties, you can go to the position, and you can undo the chain, and what you can do is change the width and height on those. So, you know, I can take it in to make it smaller. Push it down there. Again, you might find that when you do the install, you'll be able to have the handles around the edge on this, and then I'll take that down, bring it up a bit. Okay, and I'll put it on there. Now, once I've got the tap and I've put it in location, it's just a layer that's on top of there. And to bring this up and I go to events, I go for selection because I've got it selected. And then I go down to the bottom next to the trash can and I click on plus. Now I need to say tap area, and then I need to come along and I need to go, the event is going to be touch, click, and then environment up here, and then I just click on exit, and it's going to have exit add. And then I can click in here and I'll put HTTP UK. Now, once that's in there, I just save it. And this time I'm going to go for the preview. It appears. Go down here, I click on there, and then it'll take me to Solent's website. Now we'll come back in here. If we go here and look, we've got the code, and if you're could be code, you might find, you know, some people said it's quite clean code that's in there. So that's all the code which you can cut and paste and use somewhere else and amend it. But what you can do now at this point is you can click on publish. It's got all the functions for it, says what it's going to do. It saves it as a zipped up folder, and we click publish. Now if I go to my documents, I've got it here. I'll just drag it onto the desktop. If I just expand that to see what's in it, open it up, inside here we have the HTML document and also the logo, and if I open that up in the browser, it's all working. So you can amend that file, incorporate it into something else, and you're up and running.